If the people you are around, if the things that you're doing, if the things that you are thinking, if all of those things are impacting you negatively, you have to be open to creating a new normal. If you change your mind, you change your life.
Live with Simon Chris Makanga. Friends, today's episode is going to be amazing. Our special guest is all the way from the United States to Uganda. Dr. Candice E. She is the founder of KHAOS, that is KHAOS, Keep Healing and Overcoming Struggles. We're going to have a conversation about mental health because I know we live in a country where many of us are mentally ill and we don't know whether we are ill. We're going to have a conversation about that. Dr. Candice E. It's a pleasure to have you on this conversation.
Great day. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
How is it like being in Uganda?
It's been awesome. Like, everyone is so welcoming. I just love just the environment. It feels like home. It really does feel like home.
Before we came for this conversation, you subjected us to meditation.
Yes.
Why did you choose to do that?
Because I believe, so meditation, it grounds you. And so that's what it does. And so when we talk about grounding, it brings you into the present. And so, I feel like oftentimes we're so busy thinking about what has happened or thinking about what could happen that we don't really sit and think about or sit in what's actually happening.
Why did I become so calm? I came with this hype of having a great conversation with you, like throwing this kind of intro, like, hey Ugandans, do you know who I have on stage today?
And now you all mellow, you're kind of sitting back and everything.
Hello.
And that's what it's all about. Just like I talked about, during the first day of the training today, is understanding that the relationship that you build with yourself is the most important relationship that you're going to build with a human being. And so you have to spend time with you. And that's what meditation is about.
So now you're here to speak to Ugandans.
Yes.
What kind of Ugandans do you want to speak to?
I want to speak to the Ugandans who feel like they don't have any hope, because yes, you do. I want to speak to those who are depressed and they have a hard time getting out of the bed, because you have a purpose in your life.
How do I know that I'm depressed?
You know what? If you have lost the will to do the things that you used to do, if you are having a hard time and you're sleeping all the time, if you have figured out that you're not eating like you used to, if you are withdrawn and you're not around people like you used to be around, if people are inviting you places and you're deciding, no, I'm just gonna stay,
and you feel comforted, and
you feel comforted, like you said, by isolation. If you find yourself emotional often, if you're crying a lot. And one thing that we don't talk about with depression is if you find yourself angry a lot, because we think of the sadness, but it's anger also. If you're snapping at people a lot, and if you're arguing with people a lot and always finding the negative in situations, that could be a sign of depression also.
Now we have a couple of Ugandans, and many of them are depressed or probably mentally ill, and they don't know that they are ill. And those who know that they are ill, probably they don't know where to go. And those who know where to go, probably they find the facility is quite not affordable. The prices are quite high. And then you find like he's a kind of a man. Let me speak about men.
Please and thank you.
He's a man that probably has just lost his job. The wife has just left, leaving behind 2 young children to look after. The landlord is demanding. The mother is sick, and the brother is also calling for school fees, and is locked up in the house with the children. You're here to speak to that kind of a man.
Yes.
What are you going to tell him?
You know what? This is it. I start off with saying, I need you to understand that where you are right now is temporary. That's the first thing. And I need you to understand that you can create a new normal. And we can't take on everything at once. When you look at everything at once, it feels like you are being smothered. So you look at piece by piece. Let's break this down piece by piece. And let's figure out how to create a new normal. What do we want it to look like? And now let's figure out what it takes for us to start working toward it. And I say one foot in front of the other. and only look back to see how far you've come, because you got this. And one of the things that, with depression and anxiety and trauma, all of those things make you feel like you don't have choices. And that's it. And I tell people all the time, what you tell yourself is your truth, but it doesn't mean it's the truth. And so you have to find the truth. And at the end of the day, the truth is we all have purpose. Everybody has a purpose. Yes, and you have to figure out what yours is.
And you're here to serve your purpose.
Yes.
So how did you come up with KHAOS, keep healing and overcoming struggles?
Well, because the other end of KHAOS, KHAOS, is can't help acting out severely. And that's what I was doing in my life. I just couldn't help it.
So how did you go now to KHAOS?
And so it was like, how do I change this? How do I do something different? How do I put a spin on it? And so I said, you know what? Life happens, but it doesn't mean it has to stop. We all have the ability to create a new normal as we keep healing and overcoming struggles. Yes.
First, you appreciate that struggles exist.
Yes. And that's it, because you have to embrace. So we have a skill with KHAOS called FREE. And FREE stands for forgive, release, embrace, and elevate. And so it's like, yes, first I have to forgive myself for not being who I felt I should have been, because I'm only doing the best I can with what I got. Then you have to forgive others for not being who you want or need them to be, because people break you because they're broken too. They can only give you what they got to give.
True.
But then you have to learn to release yourself from the unrealistic expectations that you put on yourself and others. But then that E, the first one, is embrace. And you have to learn how to embrace your story for what it was, what it is, and what it can be, with love and compassion.
I love what you said. It's a story.
Yes.
Indeed, it's a story.
Yes.
Believe you me, because if you want to go to the top of the mountain, you have to climb.
Yes.
And climbing sometimes is quite hectic.
Yes.
You have to sweat.
Yes.
You can't get to the top without sweating.
You cannot.
Uganda is the third country you're visiting in Africa. The first was Tanzania.
Yes.
You went to Rwanda. Now you're in Uganda.
Yes.
Why Africa?
It's home. Like that's the truth. When I did my ancestry DNA, I am 63% Nigerian. And so it's like, you know what? I need to go where my roots are. I need to go where my ancestors are. I need to go. And this is where I wanted to come. And so it's like I plan on visiting as many countries in Africa as I can. And, I feel like if God has downloaded something inside of me that can help, and once I spoke in Tanzania and I realized that it was universal, I said, Lord, please allow me to travel the world. Allow me to go throughout the continent as much as possible and share the KHAOS mindset with all who are willing to learn it.
I'm glad you're saying God is part of the equation.
Oh, yeah, very much so. I am because of God. That's it. Definitely.
So what do you tell him before you're coming?
So before I even got on the plane, when we set everything up, I said, Lord, please speak through me. Anything that is supposed to be said, any person that crosses my path, anything that I have inside of me that I'm supposed to give to them, please allow me to do it. How
did you know that you're going to be what many people say, a life coach and a person that restores hope? Yours must have been lost before.
Yes, and so I am what we call a KHAOS kid. And so I'm a person, life happened to me, and I either had the chance to give up or I had to figure out how to keep healing and overcoming struggles. And I decided to keep healing and overcoming struggles. There were some times where when I grew up with a lot of like verbal and emotional abuse and different things like that. My mother was mentally ill and didn't know. And, so because of that, I dealt with the consequences of her not knowing she was mentally ill. And so, there were certain things that I developed emotional casualties as a result of growing up in a single parent home. My dad wasn't around and, just different things happened. And so when I graduated from high school and went to college, I, used to be a person that would just shut down and not say anything about my feelings. But then when I went to college, I completely changed because in my mind, I wasn't going to deal with certain things anymore. But I became,
what was wrong with your mind?
And so I was closed and I didn't want to express certain things. And so then once I finally started, you know, changing and kind of enduring things in college, I was overwhelmed. And the way that I dealt with that is I would fight or I would argue. And so then I started having panic attacks, and panic attacks felt like I was dying. Like my chest is tight, and so like I'm hot. I feel like I'm gonna pass out. Different things like that. And so then I realized that I had anxiety, and so, you know, finding out I have all of these things going on, and I'm in college. I'm 18, 19 years old, and I don't want to go back to my mom's house. And so I told my mom, when I leave here, I'm not coming back. Like I'm gonna make my own way. And so I had to figure it out, and they put me in, I got into a fight with a football player, actually, when I was in college, because he said he was going to spit on me, and I blacked out, and I hit him. And so I almost got kicked out of college for fighting. And so they put me in anger management classes, and they weren't culturally competent. They just weren't at all. And so I have this girl, and she's just like, when you get upset, I need you to breathe and look out the window. And I'm like, what
does it mean?
I had never heard that before. I'm like, that doesn't work. And so because I didn't want to fail, that was the biggest thing. I didn't want to fail.
So how would you discover your purpose now?
I think that it was me watching those kids and watching those families and watching everybody. And I'm like, you know what do y'all need that I didn't get? And having the ability to grow while I was growing with them. And I think that that was the biggest thing. I think that that's how I ended up finding my purpose. And when I switched over, I actually went to college to be a nurse. And then I realized that I don't like science and I don't like death. So I was like, okay, well, those two things that I need for nursing. And so I ended up going into social work. And when I was sitting in my classes, my professor was basically saying that I wasn't supposed to be there because I grew up in poverty. I grew up in a single parent household because my mother was, because my parents were teenage parents. Like all of those things, I was a statistic. And I was sitting there.
So how did you heal?
And so I went to counseling. And not only did I go to counseling, I also started I do meditation. And I started working out. And so like the physical health is also very important. I learned about the different just pillars of health. And so like you have your mental, you have your spiritual, you have your emotional, and you have your physical. And so those things I started working on all parts of myself. And I just built my relationship with God as well.
You know what you're doing? It's something that you cannot do it alone. Who is giving you a helping hand?
I have a team. I have an amazing team at home. KHAOS is running right now, and there are KHAOS clinicians and KHAOS coaches in schools and community centers. There are clients being seen right now, and I am here. And so I have an amazing team. I have an amazing support system, just in regard to my friends and just in regard to my family, my children. And so, you know, people they see what my vision is, and they support it. And we're building it together. And I connect with like-minded individuals. And I say, if someone comes to me and I'm like, hey, do you see something that I may be missing? Okay, well, let's go. And we heal and grow together. The whole thing is, I tell anybody, especially all the people that are a part of my team, no one works for me. We all work with each other.
Do you have any probably success story?
Yeah, I have several. I have success stories from home. I had a mother who, when I first met her, this was during COVID, and so it was virtual. And when she popped up on my computer screen, she was sitting in her car, and her eyes and her face was drenched. Her brother had just been murdered, and she had two young daughters. And the father of one of her daughters had left, and the oldest daughter's father was already gone. So she's like, I have lost my brother. I don't have any help with these kids. I can't do this. And so she contacted me, and she was like, I just want to give up. And this was during COVID. And so I told her, I said, I will sit with you in the darkness until you're ready to walk out into the light. And so she said, I'm going to put myself on the back burner. My daughter needs help. And so I told her, I said, you know what? I'll see both of you. And so I started seeing her, and I started seeing her daughter. And I realized that her daughter was having a lot of depression and anxiety because of mom. And so mom would get upset, and she would verbally abuse her, or she would physically abuse her. And then she would, of course, because she loved her, she would come back for, and I love you, and, I'm sorry, and these things. And so I was able to help mom recognize the things that had happened in her life, and help mom recognize how her grief and how her trauma had impacted her, and how it impacted how she was raising her daughter. And so she learned how, as we say, she learned how to break free. She learned how to get raw, which is realize, admit, and work through.
Did you forgive her?
Yes. And I taught her daughter how to forgive as well. And so now, here it is. Her daughter has graduated from high school. Her daughter is in college now. Mom went back to college, and she just graduated. And they have an excellent relationship. And so mom now is able to, life still happens to mom. Mom still grieves. Mom lost another brother actually last year, but she's able to cope with it now, and she's able not to spiral out when something happens. She's able to allow herself to feel her feelings, but also realize that she can keep moving forward.
So what age do you speak to the most? And
so the most, usually it is the 16 to 25. It's that age group. I speak to everybody, but it's that group, really.
What do they tell you?
And so that nobody understands them. They feel like, people have unrealistic expectations of them. Oftentimes, a lot of them are feeling suicidal. They don't feel like their lives have value, or they feel like they can't live up to their parents' expectations of them, and it feels heavy. Oftentimes, kids or young adults say that they feel like they're drowning, or we get some of them that are just so angry, and they don't know what to do with that anger. And so they are making very impulsive decisions, and they're kind of living recklessly out here in this world.
Are they the same problems you find here in Africa? For the countries you have visited?
Yeah, I've seen them, and as I'm listening, I'm like, this pain is universal. Like trauma is universal, although it's different types of trauma, although it may be different levels of trauma. There are certain ways that people deal with it. Like when we talk about, some people become fighters. And so, they actually physically fight, or they're verbally aggressive, or they shut people out, or some people become fleers. So like they're running, and they're drinking, and they're smoking, and they're, they're working all the time so that they can avoid what's happening. And some people become freezers, where they just emotionally disconnect, and they're kind of like on autopilot, just waking up to go to sleep. Nothing new is coming out of them. They're just kind of going through the motions. And so like I see it, whether it is in the States, whether I've been to Brazil, whether it is in the Philippines, or whether it's here, the pain and the weight is real, and
so
it's
what
universal.
Do you tell them?
And so that's the thing I tell them. It's okay for you to feel your feelings. It is, and that's the biggest thing. I think that most people feel ashamed, and they feel like they're not supposed to feel that way. But we're human. We're not robots. We're human. And so it's absolutely okay for you to feel your feelings, but then you have to figure out how to feel your way through. That's it. We're going to have emotions. You're going to be sad. You're going to be angry. You're going to be nervous. You're going to, be scared. You're going to have those feelings. You just can't stay there. And you have to figure out, I always tell people there's nothing wrong with you, but you got to figure out what happened to you, how it impacted you, and then you got to decide what you're going to do with it.
And you reminded me of us saying that the ingredients of a transformation of a human being are well packaged within me.
Yes.
And you.
Yes.
And many others.
Yes. I tell everybody you have everything that you need inside of you to be who God created you to be. You have it. Sometimes it may be buried under the things that have happened to you. It may be buried. But all you have to do is uncover it. The seeds are there. You came here with what you need. So you just have to find it. And sometimes what you need may be someone else may have to spark it, but it's in you. And you have to believe it. And you know
what eats that the most? Is depression.
Yeah.
Because we all have the capacity to create and recreate.
Yes, I remember, so I am divorced. And I remember I've been divorced for 5 years. And I'm a therapist. I've been a therapist since 2009. And in 2017, my whole world fell apart.
When people judge you?
Yeah. You know what? Because I'm so transparent with my journey, they accept it. But I think it's because I'm so transparent with my journey. And I'm so open. And I say, I'm human and I don't have all the answers. And just because I'm a therapist, it doesn't mean that I don't need therapy. I'm a therapist with a therapist. I see somebody every last Wednesday.
Dr. Candice, that's what I want to know.
Yes.
You speak to so many people.
Yes.
And your job requires you to restore hope.
Yes.
And write back the word smile on their faces.
Yes.
They are detoxifying and you are taking it.
Yes.
How do you detoxify? I mean, how do you stay motivated?
So in so many different ways. And so I am a person that believes that self-care is important. And so I take time for me. And so I call it me time, which is ME, mindfulness enhancement. And so I meditate, I pray, I exercise. I also I like to spend time outside. I like to take bubble baths and listen to good music. You know, I like to dance. I spend time with people, you know, but also some things that I do, I rest. I give myself permission to rest. And I also am a therapist with a therapist. I see somebody once a month so that I can make sure that I'm on the right track. I have a safe space for me to be able to kind of get all of it out. And it's like, okay, it's a recharge. Let's go.
I love that. So we don't feed from nothing.
Oh no, you cannot. You can't pour from an empty cup. There's nothing in it.
Absolutely. You can't pour from nothing.
No.
Do your children know what you're doing?
They do. They do. They're products of it. You know, I am the first generation to break the cycle. And so I specialize in intergenerational trauma. And so I'm the first person to heal so that we could heal forward and backward. And I didn't know that, you know, when I first started this journey of healing for myself, and when I first started my academic journey, I didn't know. All I knew about was the negativity. All I knew about was the trauma. But I didn't know that just like you can have intergenerational trauma, you can have intergenerational healing as well. And so because I've done what I needed to do, because I've gotten help and I'm mentally healthy now, my children now know what it looks like to pay attention to what's happening inside of them. And they're able to say, this is going on or that's going on. When I went through my divorce, my son, he came to me and he said, Mom, I want to go see a therapist. And I signed him up. And my daughter, she's getting ready to go to college now.
You
and
didn't
she
ask him what the problem was?
Oh, well, I knew what it was. And I just didn't want to force it on him. And so they always knew that they had the option. And I would always ask, how are you doing? I call it checking your temperature and seeing where they are. Because I know even though I'm their parent, and I know that even though I'm a therapist, they're not going to always want to share everything with Mom. And sometimes they may feel I'm the problem. So I have to be aware enough to know that it's okay for my children to have resources that aren't me, for them to be the best version of them. And so my son, he went to therapy for a year, and he told me when he was done, he was like, yep, I'm done. I'm good.
Not angry with your father?
Well, that was some things that they had to work through. That was definitely some things that they had to work through. And, you know, now they're actually working toward building healthy relationships with him as well.
I love how you do your things.
Oh, thank you.
There's no shortage of wisdom.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
How do I know that suicide ideations? How does somebody start to have those ideations?
Just like you talked about the man earlier, you know, my wife is gone. I have these children. My mother is sick. I don't have my job. I have to pay for where I'm living. All these things are happening when you feel like you have nothing left, when everything feels like it's just burying you. You start having the mindset that I don't want to feel this pain anymore. And so if I'm not here, I won't feel this pain anymore. And we don't think about the permanency of that. We just think that I'm hurting now and I don't want to hurt like this anymore. So I don't want to be here. And so, you know, that's where the suicidal ideations come from. You start thinking that it's always going to be this way. It's never going to get better. And so you start telling yourself, it'll be better off if I wasn't here. Sometimes you say, well, if I just went to sleep and never woke up, it will be better. If I just jumped from here, then it will all be over, or I won't be a burden on anybody anymore.
I call that the highest degree of selfishness.
And you know, when you look at it, sometimes people feel like, because I know some people that have felt suicidal, and they feel that if I'm not here, you will be better off without me. And all of it is distortions. All of it is just distortions in your brain. It's your brain giving you distorted ways of looking at what's actually happening. And you believe what you tell yourself. And so your brain is telling you that it's all bad. And so if you don't see anything other than that, you really believe that that's the only way out. And so from the outside looking in, it looks like selfishness. But from the inside looking out, it looks like peace. Yeah. But it's like, you know, that's why it's so important to get help. You know, you go from the ideations to actually having a plan. And so when you get to the part where you start thinking it, you need to go talk to somebody.
We have a couple of people who are locked up in that kind of a situation.
Yeah.
And they don't know that they're hurting.
Yeah.
So where do they start from?
Where they start? The first thing, and so with KHAOS, we have a skill called RAW. Realize, admit, and work through. And so the realize, you know, we have been so busy just kind of going in life that we don't ever stop to look back. And so, like, if you're listening to this and you feel like you have no other way, and you feel like you are just, I got nothing, I need you to sit back, and I need you to really think about what changed in your life. What happened? How did you get to where you are? And then the A is to admit, how is it impacting you? But then I need you to take some accountability. And I need you to say, what are my actions? What's my role in what is happening in my life? Because accountability and acknowledgement is at the root of healing. And then I need you to W, which is work to create a new normal. And so start being intentional. Stop just letting life happen. I need you to be intentional. Ask questions. Why am I making the decisions that I'm making? Why am I making this choice? Why am I going here? Why am I watching this? You know, different things. What am I bringing inside of myself? Attention. Be aware of who and what you're giving your attention to. Look at the environments that you're in. It can be so simple. You might just need to change your environment. You might just need to change the people that you're around. Because if all you're around is negativity, you're a product of your environment. You might need to just change that. And then attitude. If the people you are around, if the things that you're doing, if the things that you are thinking, if all of those things are impacting you negatively, you have to be open to creating a new normal. If you change your mind, you change your life.
Wow. You just reminded me of a friend of mine. A few months ago, he was diagnosed with depression. When I went to visit him, I thought I was going to visit an ill patient. That's the truth. If you're admitted in one of the biggest hospitals here in the country, you're ill. When I met him, he looked to be normal. I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
We could even smile.
Yeah.
And we had a conversation.
But he's
But
hurting.
the therapist told him that he's too kind. And is the problem. How true could that be?
It could be very true. And so, you know, when I just talked about earlier, I talked about like the different trauma responses, and I talked about fight, flight, and freeze. But the last one, the biggie, is fawn, FAWN. And so fawning, that trauma response, it gets you, because what happens is that fawners are people where at some point in your life, something happened, and maybe the people that were supposed to take care of you or do right by you, someone didn't. And so now you become the caregiver. You become the person that makes sure everybody is okay. And so you become the person that everybody comes to. And because you know what it feels like to hurt and not have your needs met, you don't want anyone else to feel that way. And so you just overdo and overdo and overdo and overdo and overdo. And then you put so much on yourself. You put so much on yourself. And then even a lot of it is self-created. And you don't even recognize that it's self-created. And then you find yourself, you look up one day and there's no one, or you don't feel like there's anyone to help you if you need help, because everyone feels like you're the helper. And so that's what happens. You become that person. You fawn and you're taking care of everybody else, but
you're not taking care of yourself.
You forgot to take care of the main character, and there's you.
So what should a person like that do?
Yeah. So boundaries are very important. And so when we talk about boundaries, one, you should not entertain people, places, or situations that make you have to be a lesser version of yourself. Two, instead of fishing for people, you got to start teaching people how to fish. And three, you have to start taking care of you. If you give everybody your awesomeness, you deserve your awesomeness as well.
Hello.
Because if you give to everybody else and not take care of you, at some point you're going to find yourself beaten down, depleted,
eating yourself.
Yes. Basically, you know, quick story, a friend of mine, God rest his soul, they just had his funeral on Wednesday. I was traveling and I couldn't go. About 2 months ago, I did a training at his job, and we talked about self-care. And I do an activity where I put words on the floor that have to do with trauma and how you feel. And he stood on self-care and guilt. And I said, why do you stand there? And he said, because I know I need to take care of myself, but I feel guilty because of all the people that need me. I looked at him and I told him, I said, if you don't take care of you, all of the people that depend on you are going to have to figure it out when you're gone.
I think it's a natural mistake that we all do, especially as the men. Because if I'm a father of 2 young, beautiful girls, I'll always want to be a good daddy.
Yeah.
And I always want to be a good husband. The two are different.
Yes. 2 different roles.
But as a man, I cannot watch to see them suffer.
Yeah.
I'll always strive so hard to make sure that I provide.
Yes.
But at the end of it all, I am draining myself.
Yes.
Physically, mentally. And I find myself depressed. And I don't know that I'm even depressed.
Because you're just functioning. That's it. You know, here it is. Because, especially for my men. Because you are often, because of the I have to provide, because of the family falls on my shoulders, it's hard for you all. And it's often really hard for you all to say I'm struggling because of it. You feel like there's shame or people are going to judge you. You have to find a safe space. And whether that's therapy, whether that is a coach, whether that is, you know, if that is a minister, whatever it may be, you have to find a safe space for you to be able to go and you to say, after I've done all of this and I'm overwhelmed, I can go here and say, I'm overwhelmed. So that they can say, they can speak life back into you. They can tell you that it's okay for you to feel this way because you are human. And they can talk to you about what does it look like for you to take care of you. So that you don't get so lost in the roles that you play again that you forget about the main character.
Wow.
Which is you.
Wow. So true. Yeah. So now, Dr. Candice, well, I love what you're doing.
Thank you.
Honestly speaking, you're not here by mistake.
I believe everything happens as it should.
You're not in Uganda by mistake. And we're not having this conversation by mistake. I believe somebody out there is going to be healed.
I hope so.
Are you learning from anyone?
Oh, yeah. I learn and I also give. And so, like, you know, anybody that I meet, it doesn't matter who it is, I take something from them.
What do you learn from your patients?
And so I learn, one, I always tell them, you know, you're resilient. There are different levels of resilience and you don't even recognize it. And so I'm able to see that. I'm able to see how strong people are and they don't even understand it. And so, you know, me being able to see that, I'm able to recognize that even when I'm having a hard day, I think about somebody else and I'm like, you know what? They was able to make it through this. Just keep moving, Candice. You got this.
Is there something that the United States is doing to deal with the mental illness that maybe Ugandans or African countries could adopt? You
know, I think that all of us are dealing with the stigma. I think that we are working really hard to normalize it. And so we're really working really hard to like have campaigns and just different things to just normalize it. And basically we're doing the same things you guys are doing. Like, that's just being honest, you know, where we're starting to talk about it. We're starting to make it safe to talk about it. We're starting to have spaces where we're saying it's okay. We're starting to give men permission and telling them strong doesn't mean that you don't cry. You know, we're starting to have those conversations, and we are, you know, starting to make sure that we are making sure that it's not just the professionals that know what mental health is. It's everybody.
Have you ever referred any patient to any other therapist?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
You cannot handle?
Well, not necessarily. Well, I know what my specialty is. And so therefore, like, you know, when I have someone that may come and they may have borderline personality disorder, that's not my area. I can recognize it. And when I recognize it, I'm like, okay, I can help you identify what's going on. I can help you identify the symptoms. I can help you identify the behavior. But the work that you need, I'm going to send you over there to this person that specializes in borderline personality disorder. You know, I don't specialize in schizophrenia. And so therefore, you know, once I see it and I recognize it, okay, I understand you need medication. I understand that you need someone to help you with medication management, and you also need someone to assist you with therapy. That's not my area. So let me send you to where you need to go. You know, I help with what I can. And then my thought process is not to harm. So once I recognize this is beyond my scope, let me find somebody that can help you. Definitely.
Wow.
Yes.
I love that.
Yes.
So how would you feel when somebody has healed?
Oh my God, it feels amazing. I tell my clients all the time, you know, I see them, and I do like every so often, I'll end our sessions and I go back and I tell them, you know, I'm like, hey, you remember when you first came in? And, you know, I'm proud of you. Look at you, you know, or if something happens and I can see it and I can say, remember when you used to do this, 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 and this, and look at how you handled that. Remember how you used to lose it completely. Look at how you handled that.
How do you feel?
You know, and it feels amazing, you know, because it's not me. I tell every client that comes across me, I tell them, I am not the expert on anybody. You are the expert. You know yourself better than I will ever know you. And so what we do together. And so I can just help you help yourself become the better version of you. And so because of that, I'm so proud and I'm grateful. I tell every one of my clients, thank you for allowing me to walk this journey with you, because that's what it's all about. So
your greatest asset that you're selling is hope.
Yeah.
Where do you get it from?
God. Like, that's just that's it. I believe it. I know it. Like, when I look at people, and I'm grateful for a gift that I feel God gave me, is that when you have people that are artists, and when they look at a lump of clay, they can see something amazing. People that are stylists, and when they see an outfit, they can see something amazing. Me, when I look at people, I can see the greatness inside of them. And so all I want to do is help them see it too.
I love it.
Thank you.
I've told my friends that especially those I see that they're trying so hard, my words of encouragement have always been that they are cones. A cone which is under the ground will only become harder when it shines. Yeah. The harder it shines, the harder it becomes. As soon as a little raindrop comes, it will sprout out, germinate, and give you more cones. Yes. More cones. Yes. And that's the beauty of accepting the hardship, accepting the pain. Yes. Because it's never easy. No, it's not. And it has never been. No. And I tell people all the time, I say, you know, when we start the journey of therapy, I always say, all right, you know what it feels like to hurt and hold on. You've been doing that. So now let's figure out what it feels like to heal and move forward. Let's go. Wow. And I say, let's grow, because we're going to grow together. Let's go. Wow. What do you tell God before you go to sleep? Before I go to sleep? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Just thank you. For whatever happened throughout the day, thank you. Thank you. And, you know, anything that I don't need, I ask God all the time, Lord, please remove the things and the people that are not in alignment with what you created me for. That's it. And what did you tell him, honestly, Dr. Candice? What did you tell him when you're about to get to the plane to Uganda?
As I said, Lord. First of all, safe travels, Lord. Please guide these pilots and see us safely to our destinations. But again, I said, Lord, you sent me here because I know I'm only here because God brought me here. And so, like, please give me whatever it is that I'm supposed to give. Download it into me and bring it out of me.
So now when you go back to sleep and you're thinking about all those 1,000 people you have helped, Dr. Candice E. Do you feel blessed, or you feel you're really working too much?
No, I feel blessed. I don't feel, so that's the thing. I feel like I figured out what it is I'm supposed to do in this world. And so my passion and my purpose have collided. So I don't feel like I work. Like some days are heavy, but I don't feel like I work.
So you don't feel like you came here for work?
No.
Oh.
This is just a journey. I'm like, nope. Not at all.
Talk to me, the person that connected you here.
So her name is Doreen. And so she is absolutely amazing. And so she's a young lady that I met on Facebook as a part of a Blacks in Nonprofit. And she was reaching out and she was asking about partnerships. And so she was telling me about an organization, and I inboxed her. I said, hey, I'm interested, hey. And so we just kind of started talking, and I told her about what I did. And so I guess she looked me up. And so she was like, hey, you know what? I think that we could use what you're doing. And so we started off trying to do a training virtually, and it just didn't work. It was, it was making some connections, but it wasn't really working. And so, I was like, I think it'll be better if I was there in person. And so because of that, we kind of started putting things together, and she talked to Raymond, and we all kind of came together, and here I am.
Where do they find you?
And so you can find me, I'm on all social media at KHAOS Mindset. That's KHAOS MINDSET. And that is TikTok, Instagram. Also that's Twitter. I'm on Facebook at KHAOS Inc. And you can find us at our website at www.chaosinc. That's KHAOSINC.org.
Do you offer online therapy?
And so what I'm doing, because of how our licenses work, I can't say that it's therapy. So I am providing, we do therapeutic coaching. So therefore we do therapeutic coaching, and we coach anybody. And I'm also training people as well. And so we take on a certain amount of pro bono clients. And so that's something that we are working on. And I'm also working on, like I said, training new coaches. So therefore there are other people that can provide the services. My dream is to train KHAOS coaches to be everywhere. So therefore, it's not just about counseling. It's about having an individual who has walked this journey as well. And now you have someone you can connect with that can walk it with you.
Wow.
Yes.
So you're multiplying yourself.
That's what I'm working to do.
Amazing.
Yes.
I'd like you to look into this camera.
Yes.
And I speak to the Ugandans who are carrying rotten hearts in the apartments.
I want to share with you all the KHAOS affirmation. And so I wrote this for myself when life had fallen apart for me, and I want to give it to you. Here it is. My story is my story because it makes me who I am. I'm never ashamed of what I've been through. I'm now doing the best I can. My feelings are my feelings, even when it's a burden to hold. There is nothing wrong with saying it's hard to carry the load. I reset now to remember every situation encourages thought. When I realize, admit, and work through my issues, I can get raw. I embrace my whole truth as I break free. Forgive, release, embrace, and elevate over any dis-ease. One day at a time. No shame on the days I feel troubled. Working hard every day to keep healing and overcoming struggles. You got this, I got this, and we got this.
And you got me.
Yes.
And I got you. Thank you so much, Dr. Candice E.
Thank you for having me.
It's beyond my control that you and I are having a conversation. I believe in your journey, this must have been aligned.
I believe so.
And I thank God that I've done my purpose. I've done my part, rather. And wherever you're going, what I can say is that may He bless you,
thank you,
favor you, and give you all the wisdom that you need.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you. From my heart to yours. Thank you.
Amen. Thank you so much for passing by, and may God be with you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming. Friends, that is it for Live with Simon Chris Makanga. But thank you so much for being part of this conversation, right from the Genesis up to now, that I'm going to be saying bye-bye to you. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share, and also give us a comment based on how you like this. For those of you that are carrying a broken heart, please remember you're climbing. Pain is part of the process. Accept it, embrace it, and see the silver lining out of it. Jump on it and keep going. Live with Simon Chris Makanga has come to an end. May the good Lord of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob be with you. Until we meet in another video, for now, it's a bye-bye. Thank you so much, Doctor.
Thank you.